Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, bringing y'all an off-season edition of Redskins Report. 3 topics to talk about today. First, Ronald Darby being signed on a 1-year deal, why it's a steal. 2, why the Redskins should go ahead and get Damarious Randall, who clearly does want to play for the Redskins. And 3, why this 2020 season will basically be like a big audition, a huge tryout for a lot of the Redskins players, like the majority of the roster. But let's go ahead and get to this, man. Let's get it. Alright, so the Redskins signed former Eagles corner Ronald Darby to a 1-year deal. This boy Ronald Rivera trying to get right with the DMV fans by bringing a lot of DMV players. That boy Ronald Darby went to Potomac High School in Oxon Hill in PG County. He already brought back Kendall Fuller and Sean Davis. Might even bring in some more DMV guys later in the draft or as undrafted free agents. I mean, there's definitely a thing to players playing their hearts out in front of their hometown crowd versus just playing anywhere. They feel like they have much more to prove, especially if their family and friends are watching them up close at the stadium. I know I would personally. I mean, I would always give it my 110, but it's just something about playing in front of the people I care about the most. They'll just motivate me to just take it an extra step, put it in another gear. So I understand. There's also something to playing for your favorite football team. You grew up watching them your whole life, loved them, and then you somehow end up playing for them. Me personally, I would take that opportunity to have my best years possible. I would just have to. I would just hate to see my favorite team losing, especially because of me. There's just no way I could go out like that. I'm not going for that. But this Ronald Darby signing is definitely a steal, especially just for a 1-year, $4 million deal. Ronald Darby is very talented, and being able to take him away from the Eagles is also a bonus because they lose him and we gain him. And Ronald Darby is very talented, has a lot of potential. He was terrible last year, but that's mostly because he was dealing with an injury. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the league back in 2017 when Pro Football Focus had him graded in 80 overall. That was the year Philly won the Super Bowl and he played a big role in it. I mean, there was a time in that 2017 season where Philly fans were just begging for him to come back to help for that Super Bowl run. And then when he came back, he balled out. But these past 2 years, it has not looked the same, especially this past year where this was his worst season of his career, period. Like I said, it's mostly due to injuries, but still. But luckily for us, he's still only 26, so he's definitely young enough to get healthier, to bounce back, to get better under great coaching, under a great system. Also, our front seven, if you add Chase Young, will definitely be better than the front seven that the Eagles had in 2017. So if he was successful with that front seven in front of him, he should definitely be successful with this 2020 front seven that he's going to have in front of him. And then the best part is that it's just a 1-year, $4 million prove-it deal. Very cheap. If he ends up not working out, it's only $4 million, so we're not hurt by it at all. We're getting a promising young player on a pretty cheap 1-year prove-it deal. And 1-year prove-it deals are the way to go, especially this 2020 season, which I'm going to talk about later in the video on why these 1-year prove-it deals we're getting are very smart, and I see what Ron Rivera is doing. But as far as Ronald Darby goes, he had 2 interceptions and 11 pass breakups in 2019, so he had moments and flashes of greatness, but he just couldn't be consistent at all because he was battling injuries the entire year. And what's very interesting is that Ron Rivera has only kept 4 corners on his initial 53-man rosters the past couple of years. Maybe Jack Del Rio will have a say in that, and maybe it won't just be 4. But if it is 4, it's looking like Kendall Fuller, Jimmy Moreland, Ronald Darby, Fabian Moreau, which also means that getting Bashaud Breeland is very unlikely. Because that means, even if we were to sign Breeland, that means either Breeland or Fabian Moreau would end up just not making the roster anyway. Because I'm pretty sure Ronald Darby would make the roster over Breeland. Breeland's a more consistent corner, but Ronald Darby definitely has a higher ceiling when healthy. And I'm pretty sure the Redskins are going to bank on that, especially in this 2020 trial run year, which again I'm going to talk about in further detail later. And so far, Ronald Darby in 2017 is way better than anything we've gotten from Fabian Moreau since he's been here. So, at the very least, we've upgraded the cornerback position in that way. Ronald Darby is definitely an upgrade over Fabian Moreau when healthy. But we'll see though, because Fabian Moreau hasn't had an entire offseason of playing outside corner. So we'll see how that goes. Coming out of UCLA, he was a great press man outside corner. Then the Redskins get him and force him into the slot for like his first 3 years just because of the need there. But that was playing him out of position. Then near the end of last year, they started playing him on the outside and he started looking better. He still made a lot of mistakes. He was definitely not perfect. He wasn't great, but he showed flashes. He wasn't getting burnt nearly as much. So we'll see how Fabian Moreau looks this summer in training camp and all of that, competing against Ronald Darby. Or it may be Fabian Moreau on one side and Ronald Darby on the other, with Kendall Fuller and Jimmy Moreland competing to see who's going to be the starting slot corner. But hopefully Jimmy Moreland can also compete to be an outside corner, because I love his instincts and tenacity and how he trash talks and all of that. And for those of y'all that really wanted Logan Ryan, he is one of the best tackling corners in the league, but he's also a slot corner. And like I just said, we already have 2 of those and only 1 can play. And even then, slot corners aren't in every formation, especially a lot of what Jack Del Rio does. There may not be a slot corner on the field a lot of the time, so having 3 of them just wouldn't really even make sense. Also, Logan Ryan was one of the worst corners in coverage last season. He allows a lot of receptions. I mean, he allowed 80 catches on 114 passing attempts his way. I mean, that is crazy. He is definitely not trustworthy in coverage. He is a great tackler, but as I explained in the 4-3 defense breakdown, especially the Jack Del Rio part, Jack Del Rio prefers great cover corners that can't tackle over good tackling corners that can't cover. So Logan Ryan didn't make any sense for the Redskins at all. And now part 2 of this video. Why the Redskins should go ahead and get safety Damarious Randall, unrestricted free agent from the Cleveland Browns. Damarious Randall is 28 years old and still has room to grow. He is athletic. I mean, Sway Run hit him on Twitter and said, "Man, come to the Skins, bro. Link up." And that boy Randall replied, "On my way." And Damarious Randall also tweeted a picture of him next to Landon Collins and tweeted at Landon Collins, "You ready for this?" And of course, Landon Collins supported it, saying, "Born ready, big fella." He is a versatile player, which would fit what Ron Rivera has been trying to do this free agency period very well. They already signed versatile Sean Davis, who can play both safety positions. I prefer him at free safety because of his athleticism, but he can technically play both safety positions, and he has some experience at corner. And then you have Kendall Fuller, who everybody knows is the Swiss Army knife. He's best in the slot. I would say his second best position is free safety, and then he also can play some outside corner. So Damarious Randall, he was playing a lot of corner in Green Bay, and then when he got traded to the Browns, they played him more at safety, and that's when he had his best year, the first year that he got traded to the Browns. So with his athleticism and his versatility, the secondary can actually be very interesting, because there may be times where Landon Collins is used as a hybrid linebacker, just like how Jack Del Rio used TJ Ward back in Denver when they had one of the best defenses in the league for several years. And then Sean Davis and Damarious Randall can play both the safety spot. I mean, it can be either way. Sean Davis at free safety, Randall at strong safety, or vice versa. If we sign Damarious Randall and Jack Del Rio gets creative and frisky enough to actually take advantage of all the versatility in our DB group, offenses would never know what the DBs are doing, because anybody can play almost any role. And he can mix it up. Sometimes Kendall Fuller might move up to safety, and then Damarious Randall come down to play corner or something. But even if we don't get that creative with Damarious Randall in the secondary, which I'm assuming we actually might, just a little bit, just dip and dabble in it, at least during the summer and training camp. But at the very least, bringing in Damarious Randall to compete with Sean Davis for the starting free safety spot is just very healthy competition. You might as well put them against each other and see which one ends up playing the best. And then at the very worst, you have a really good backup. Because with Deshazor Everett possibly not being here next year, and with Troy Apke being a liability in defense, he's a great special teams player, but as far as playing free safety in a starting defense, he is still a liability. So him being a backup, and if the starter were to get hurt, Troy Apke being thrown into the game would be pretty tragic. So having Sean Davis or Damarious Randall as the starter and the other one as a backup is a very good move, especially with both of them being versatile and athletic with a lot of potential, and can actually bring Pro Bowl talent to this team if used correctly. Damarious Randall also might not even be asking for a lot of money. But the thought of Jack Del Rio being able to disguise his coverages, because you have the versatile Kendall Fuller, Sean Davis, and Damarious Randall on the field at the same time, I love the thought of that, especially with how great our front seven should be and how dominant our front four pass rush should be if we draft Chase Young. disguising our coverages with Chase Young and Montez Sweat attacking the quarterback could result in a lot of interceptions. And now the last part of this video, while the 2020 season under Ron Rivera, his first season as the head coach, will basically be a trial run, a big audition for most of the players, a let's see what we got in everybody type of thing. We just signed Ronald Darby to a cheap one-year prove-it deal. We signed linebacker Kevin Pierre-Louis to a cheap one-year prove-it deal. We signed offensive tackle Cornelius Lucas to a very cheap 2-year deal. We signed tight end Logan Thomas to a very cheap 2-year deal. We signed Peyton Barber to an extremely cheap 2-year deal. And we signed tight end Richard Rodgers to an extremely cheap 1-year deal. Ron Rivera has signed a lot of people short-term, fairly or very cheap. And the 2020 season is their time to go out there and show what they can do. See if they're going to be a part of the Redskins 2021 and beyond, moving forward. He's building this team from the ground up, signing a lot of depth players, and also a lot of guys with high potential and very cheap contracts, to where if they work out and we get the best out of them, we get Pro Bowl talent for very cheap. And if they don't work out, we're only paying them a little bit of money, and it wouldn't even really hurt to cut them. We have a lot of guys only on contract for the 2020 season, and quite a bit of people only on contract to the 2021 season. So I can already tell that Ron Rivera is basically like, go out there, play your heart out, and earn that next contract. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to show what they can do, especially during the offseason training camp and all of that. And if you work out, great. We'll be willing to pay you big time money when your contract ends soon, if you've earned it. And if you don't work out, then, we'll just get rid of you. We'll just cut you. Won't be much dead cap. We don't lose out on a lot of money. And even Thomas Davis is on a 1-year deal. It's not a prove-it deal because we're not really expecting him to play towards his next contract since he's already 37 years old. But I still do expect him to play well this season. But this may be his final season. We'll see. But this Redskins roster in 2021 can look completely different from the Redskins roster in 2020. A lot of these people may not make it. And I'm a huge fan of 1-year prove-it deals. Get players to play their heart out for their next contract. They're going to put 110% into everything they do. There's no laziness when you know you're on your final year of your contract or the final 2 years. You have to play your tail off to earn that long-term big money contract. So even though we haven't signed like big splash names in free agency, I love the idea of all of these 1-year prove-it deals and all of these depth guys like Cornelius Lucas and Wes Schweitzer, who we signed long-term but for cheap. But my favorite part of it is just the high potential, low floor guys, but very little risk because they're on very cheap short-term deals like Sean Davis, Kevin Pierre-Louis, Ronald Darby, Logan Thomas, and hopefully Damarious Randall. Very athletic, high ceiling guys, if used correctly, can bring Pro Bowl talent to the team. I mean, that's just how athletic they are. That's just how high their ceilings are. But at the same time, what they've done in the past, and with teams not allowing them to be as great as they possibly can be, either not using them correctly or not giving them enough playing time, they haven't looked so good in the past. And between Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, I'm expecting us to get the most out of at least a couple of these guys, which, like I said, can be Pro Bowl level talent. But that's the end of this Redskins video. Just wanted to talk about how the Ronald Darby signing is a steal, why Damarious Randall would be a great free agent pickup right now, and why the 2020 season is clearly a trial run for this team. Don't expect playoffs at all. Ron Rivera knows he's going to take his time with this. I mean, he's going to be here for a while. So he wants to build this team up the best it can be long term rather than fighting and hurting ourselves just to try to prove something this first year. And that's one of the main reasons I still feel like they'll definitely take Chase Young. We're not trying to fill holes everywhere and try to make a Super Bowl run this year. You might as well take the best player available in this draft, which is Chase Young, and then go stupid in free agency in 2021 and in the 2021 draft. But free agency specifically, the Redskins are estimated to have top 3 cap space in the NFL come 2021 free agency. So it's just no rush to try to fill holes everywhere right now by trading back. But please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, please subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate all the support. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.